Isn't it incredible how music can sometimes make us feel things? You have that song, I could just feel, as soon as I started singing, I could feel my soul just settle. Is that it? Can your soul settle? You know what I'm feeling. I learned so let me just say thank you guys for taking water. Appreciate it. That was beautiful. There's moments when the music is the perfect thing for your soul. But have you ever had a moment when the music wasn't quite right? I used to have a garage, and I had a big stereo system because I really like sound. And one day I was rebuilding a motor, which is a really finicky thing, and I decided to turn on this really angry album that I love. Within 5 minutes, one of the extensions from my socket set was sticking out of my door because I had thrown it across the room. And I was like, well, that was a bit much. But what I find so interesting is the extension was sitting out of the wall, and then I realized what had happened. You ever have a moment where something happens? Someone says something, someone does something, and you realize you're angry, you're sad, you're in shame, you're whatever. There's a feeling that's come up in you, and you didn't even have a choice whether that was going to take you over. You're at Christmas dinner, and that family member, and you know the family member because we all have one, says that thing. And inside, you're, angry? In a shame spiral? But there's no choice. We use the word triggered. Triggered means something happened, the bullet got fired, and then I realized that the bullet got fired. But we're already stuck. I was watching, does anyone watch the show Lioness? Oh, thank you. Such a good show, isn't it? And since the second season came out, I've rewatched the first season, and there's a moment when the daughter, she's in a car accident, she breaks her femur. Bad break. Her friends have just died. Just a spoiler. Sorry about that, folks. Just ignore what I just said. Nothing happened. No one broke anything. It's all good. Watch it. You'll appreciate it. But she's going into the hospital. She's on a stretcher, and she's just screaming bloody murder. And can you already hear in the words I'm using? She's screaming bloody murder. She's got a broken femur. She's just gone through a car accident. And my reaction is, she's screaming too loud. That's annoying me now. Calm down. Get your poop in a line. But here's the thing. It's happened before I even realize what has happened. I'm already reaching for the pause button because I don't want to hear this. The reason I'm talking about this today is because there's certain emotions that when they show up, either in yourself or in someone around you, you'll have a disproportionate reaction to. When someone feels sad, so we're going to talk a bit about my aversion to sadness. I can't even say it. I want to make a joke. Can you feel that? I don't even want to talk about sadness. I want to make a joke about sadness. Okay, we're going to deal with that in a minute. I'll show you guys what I'm doing here. There's emotions that when they show up, we either push them away, we fix them, we can't deal with them. Can you throw the first emotion up for me? Anyone ever have anxiety take you over? 1 minute everything's fine, next minute is like, whew. There was no choice. There was no, oh wait, that just happened. Oh, this is a moment where I'm unsafe. Okay, I should probably let my anxiety climb because I need to amp up my system to deal with it. No. Next one. Depression. Next one. Fear. Next one. Worry. We're going to keep going, but even as I say these, can you feel some of these? It's like they got teeth to them. Sometimes it feels like it's an animal inside of me. I'm doing something that is within my skill level. I'm ice climbing, and all of a sudden I can fear that, the fear animal just like grab me and everything. I just lock down everything. Like there was no choice there. It just took me over. Can you hit the next one for me, Amber? Panic. Keep going. Anger. Yeah. I have a fellow road rager over here. He talked about people driving slow. Like, seriously. And I really feel horrible when I'm yelling at that old senior citizen who's just driving to church. And I'm like, okay, that maybe got a little much. Next one for me. Despair, hopelessness. Ooh, I don't like hopelessness. That is an emotion that when it's around me, I do not like. Next one. Loneliness. Anyone feel that one over the holidays? All of a sudden you realize, I have nothing to go to. No one sees me. And it's just, Next one. Isolation. Next one. Shame. Oh, that shame spiral's a doozy, isn't it? Next one. Self-hatred. Next one. Bitterness, resentment. You can feel in the room. These feel like something, don't they? Next one for me, Amber. Pride, arrogance. Next one. Greed. Next one. Next one. These emotions show up either because life brings them to us, or the people around us show up with them. We can feel it. Just wants to grab us. Or we're just like, I literally cannot deal with that right now. There's no metaphor here. Like literally. Imagine your Christmas. Imagine your Christmas without those having their teeth in you. Imagine a gathering where that family member, again, we all have them, who says that thing that just, whatever political bent they have, whatever story they have, it's literally going to drive you nuts, or it's going to drive you down into your side. They're going to ask you that question. I was with someone the other day. I asked them a question. I thought it was kind. Later I had a text. Can you not bring that up in public, please? You could just tell. It just drove him down. I spent the last 3 days kicking the crap out of myself. Imagine a Christmas where we're free of that. Has anyone ever done a dinner party? Cooked all the food, you're just getting to dessert, and you go to the fridge to get dessert, and then you realize there's an entire dish that you forgot to put out? Can you imagine that just being a joke and not that thing that kind of like stabs you where it's like, oh, I screwed up. I didn't do this right. Can you imagine a holiday where being alone is not connected to loneliness? Could you imagine a moment where we have choice whether or not these emotions grab us? Can you throw up the relational model for me, Amber? We've been playing with this way of looking at the world. Again, just a model. Last week, Trevor helped us see the eye. Just leave it up for a little while, Amber. 2 weeks before that, Jeff said, there's an eye. You cannot get to we without a healthy eye. That's the model. If your eye isn't healthy, if your eye isn't there, you're not getting to we, you're just getting to they. You're not actually able to move up the model. Today, we're going to take a deep dive into the eye. What our eye is doing, what it's not doing. There's a line from a guy named Mark. I can't remember what he said. I can't remember his last name. Maron? Marin, thank you. He's got this great quote. I'm going to paraphrase it. He says, the system that I created to take care of the little me is now taking over my life, and it's not pretty. Sensei James from 2,000 years ago says it differently. Can you throw up the quote for me, Amber? You must understand this. This is Sensei James. So this is from the Bible. The book's called James, first chapter. He's got these 12 beautiful lines of ways to live your life. We call him Sensei James today. You must understand this, my beloved. Let everyone be regulated. Originally this said, control your anger. And I thought, yeah, that's true. But it's bigger than that, isn't it? Some people, anger's not a problem. Sadness, resentments. My beloved, let everyone be regulated. Regulated is having a choice before that emotion takes you over. Having a choice. There is times when these emotions are appropriate. When someone you love dies, sadness is an appropriate emotion. When someone has done something to harm you, anger might be an appropriate emotion. But you have choice. Ah, yes. This is a moment where I'm going to express it this way. This is a moment where I'm going to feel my sadness. It doesn't just take you over like a wild animal. Can you throw up the next part of the quote for me? That which dysregulates us, those wounds, that trauma, all of it, remove it. Now, this is the part where we all feel a little bit annoyed at Sensei James. We get that dysregulation is problematic. When those emotions take us over and we're like literally being controlled by them, we get that that's not super healthy. We've all had to apologize. We've all had to dig ourselves out of a shame spiral. We've had to do all this. Sensei James says, stop it. Anyone know how you do that? James, do you want to spend the next 20 chapters explaining to us how we do this? Because I understand it's not helping me. It's still going on. I'm betting you all understand that when these things happen, it's not great for you. It's not because we don't want this to happen. It's because we don't know how to fix it. When I'm already yelling at the person driving in front of me, I miss the regulation portion altogether. I've spent years trying to figure this out. How do we regulate? I've come at it a bunch of different ways. Because again, if we can find the I and the they, because often the dysregulation, it's where the I against them happens, right? It's not that we look at someone and go, I hate you, I'm going to deal with it. It's like, no. Something happens, we blow up, we get triggered, some trauma hits, and it's like, wha-bam! I took that pledge that I talked about a couple weeks ago. I pledged to put all of my relationships in the we. I should have said, I will pledge to try and put all my relationships in the we. I'm catching it after it's not in the we, and I'm like, oh yeah, that was not in the, I apologize. There's been a lot of apologies lately. How do I not do that? How do you not do that? To get into the we need some sense of control is the wrong word, and you're going to see that soon. Choice before that emotion grabs us. Today, actually about a year ago, someone from our community and a few other people started sending me this book. Vince, you need to read this book. I'm like, yeah, I got a reading list this big. I'll put it on the list. And for some reason the other day, I was like, okay, it's time to read that book. And I read through it, and I went, oh, this is the second part of Sensei James's work. This is the how do you actually stay regulated? So that you don't blow up, so that you don't blow up relationships, so that you don't blow up yourself, so you don't get stuck in these horrible, dark cesspools of emotion. Today I want to talk about that. Is it the be-all and end-all? No. It's the best thing I've read, though. And to understand it, I need to show you the model. Again, just a model. It won't solve all your problems, but chances are it'll solve some. Can you throw up the first slide for me, Amber? So there's a system called internal family systems. The Vince version of it says this: there is a self. You are a self. I am a self. Now, something happens. For me, I was running across the front lawn of my house with my dad. I was 11. So, of course, he's racing me because that's what we did. Nothing better to do. And as he's running, trying to beat me, he trips on the dog. The dog clips his back leg, and he falls into the shelter belt, which is like tilled earth, soft. But his knee hits the one big rock and shatters parts of his knee. My dad was never healthy after that. It took years for them to fix his knee. And then something else happened. And then something else happened. And it culminated in that Christmas I've talked about, where we didn't know if he was coming home from the hospital or if he was going to die that day. The amount of sadness in my childhood was big. Some of you, this wouldn't have hit you, but for me, that amount of sadness, I couldn't. No, I'm going to say I couldn't. I couldn't deal with it. And so I did what IFS says. I created an exile. Can you put up the next slide for me? I took all of my sadness, all of that pain, all of the stuff in my family, and I shoved it in the corner of my psyche. And I said, you stay there. Can you show up the next slide for me? I don't want to feel that. Chances are you have some exiles. There's emotions that you went, oh, I don't want that one. That one's too much. I don't have the skills to deal with that. And the reality is, some of the situations we grew up with or we had in our lives are too big for us anyways. We don't have the skills to feel them. Even at 52, I don't have the skills to deal with them. Sorry, my ADD is kicking in here a little bit. Sometimes kids got to cry. We take these things that have happened to us, traumas, the things that trigger us, the emotions that weren't okay in our family. Anyone ever have that thing where your family said, go to your room and calm yourself down, and when you're calm, come talk to me? That's an exile. You just took them all in there. All the emotions, not welcome here. But here's the deal. Anyone around you feel an emotion that you've exiled? Chances are that's going to trigger you. And that's going to come up not just in them, but in you. That's why certain things, when I hear that girl screaming because she broke her leg, it's the screaming feels like helplessness to me. And I'm like, you have choice. Come on. Get your stuff figured out. You can do this, right? Like that's because I exiled some helplessness. I exiled the feelings of someone's going to take care of me. No. You have to take care of yourself. You can already hear. You see what I'm doing? I'm talking to myself about the emotion. The part that's talking to myself is called a manager. Can you throw up the next slide for me? We don't want to feel these exile parts, so we create another layer in front of us. We call them managers. These are the things that talk to us, the voices you have in your head. You're not going crazy. We just have different parts. If you screw something up, the part that says, come on, get your stuff figured out, that's a manager. The part that says, no one will ever love you, that's a manager. Can you throw up the next slide for me? You see, managers talk to us. They tell us things so that we don't have to feel our exiled parts. Those exiles are so painful, that we create a whole different layer that will say anything we need to hear to not feel those exiles. Our managers will say some of the most horrible things to us in an attempt to protect us from our exiles. I know you think I'm going to say your managers are bad. No. They're trying to protect you. They're trying to keep you from feeling your exiles, to be overwhelmed. That sadness that I don't want to feel, that sadness that fills my whole childhood, even as I say it, it's right here. It's like stuck right in my throat. And if I let it go, I will be bawling my eyes out in about 4 seconds. My manager says, no, Clausen. If our managers ever fail and the exiles get out, we have another system. It's called the distractors. Can you throw up the next slide for me? The technical term for them is firefighters. I don't really like the firefighters because sometimes they just take a grenade, pull the pin, and drop it into your life. This is the part that when you're like, it's either I feel sad or I jump off a bridge, the distractor's like, jump off the bridge. You won't feel sad. And the logic seems funny, but it's true. If there's something you don't want to feel, if there's a piece that you've exiled, a trauma you've exiled, and it somehow gets out, someone close to you starts to poke at it, someone starts to feel it by you, drink as much as you need. Take as much drugs as you need. Fall asleep now. Go to bed now. It will do anything it can to get you to not feel that feeling. To protect you. It just sometimes doesn't care about the holistic picture. It has one job. To get you out of the grips of the exile. We're going to deal with that in about 2 months. We have a whole series on this. Can you throw up the next one for me? Here's the problem. I separated out yourself and your managers because that's healthy. It's not having no managers. It's knowing that your manager is talking to you. The technical term is unblending. Problem is, for a lot of us, who we are is our manager. That's how it feels. See how I have them overlapped? You can't even feel yourself anymore because the manager's voice is so loud, it is running your life. We're going to go through managers here in a second. If you have something in your head that says, Vince, that's not a manager, that's just true, you're blended. I was microwaving supper the other day. I had 2 Tupperwares. Put one in my one hand, put the other one up here. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm carrying 2 Tupperwares and a drink. I'm basically a professional server at this point. I was like so proud of myself. And I walk over to the couch, and then I put my thing down, and I go sit on the couch, and I go like this. Professional servers know not to bend over when you have 2 things in your hand. So this top one shot off, and I remember watching it going, poof! Steak, mixed vegetables, and juice all over the rug. I was like, could have sworn I was a professional server until about 4 seconds ago. My wife jumps up. She's like, oh, And I remember thinking to myself, normally I would have a voice in my head that would say something like, what the hell are you doing, Clausen? Like, get your shit figured out. And I remember thinking, oh, that voice isn't there. Well, that feels nice. My wife's like, here, let me help you. I was like, no. No. I got this. She's like, no, let me help. No, don't, babe, I got this. I spilled it. I will clean it up. I went and got a spatula to scrape. And I remember thinking to myself, man, I am a healthy human being right now. Until my wife, in all of her beautiful, insightful, absolutely true statements that I really, really don't want to hear, says to me, islanding much there, Clausen? Islanding is the voice inside of people, some of you too, that says no one's going to take care of you. You have to take care of yourself. Oh, I hate when she's that right. I had a manager in me that had me so by the throat that I couldn't even tell that it was talking. I spilled it. I cleaned it up. Here's what I want to do today. I want to go through a list of managers. It's not an exhaustive list. And I want you, don't put up your hands unless you really feel you need to. I'm going to put up my hand on a few because I got a humdingers in here. I want you to start learning to hear the voice of the manager. And remember, if you're like, Vince, that's not a manager, that's just true, that's your manager. You just have identified it as the same thing. No, babe, I spilt it, I got to clean it up. The very thing that I want from her is to help me, to do things for me. That's the thing that makes me feel loved. She stands up and says, can I help you clean up? No. I spilled it, I got to clean it up. Okay. Pay attention in your head. Are these your managers? Or are these managers of people you love? Because you're going to hear it in other people easier. It's much harder to hear it in yourself. But if you can see it in someone else, it's the beginning. The goal here is to start hearing the voice of the manager. But understanding this is not me. Can you put up the first one for me, Amber? First manager, perfectionist. Don't put up your hand, but anyone have a voice that basically if you make any mistakes, it remembers for about 30 years? It has a perfect line of everything that you're supposed to do right and what is right. And it pays attention to every time you've done it wrong. And if you ever do it wrong, it will keep bringing it up over and over and over again. You did it wrong. You did it wrong. You did it wrong. You know this voice. That's a manager that's trying to protect, trying to make sure that you stay extremely focused on doing well. Because if you do well, you'll be lovable. That's the exile. Actually, there's a bunch of different exiles. But if I'm perfect, right? That's what the manager says. If you're perfect, then we won't feel worthless. We won't feel unlovable. Maybe we could even ask for something from someone. If we clean up the rug just perfectly, maybe. Can you feel that perfectionist manager inside of you? When it's really out of control, you hold everyone around you to the same standard. Your manager is not only trying to figure out how to protect you, it's telling your kids, it's telling your partner, it's telling your colleagues, no, you need to do this right. Can you even feel the energy in it? It's not like, hey, have you thought about doing this right? You need to do this right. Can you feel the animal inside of Vince? Oh yeah, I got one of these. That's why I was so surprised when I spilled all that stuff. That voice didn't kick in. Because it's there. And it's watching. Do not let your guard down, Clausen. You keep your standards high. Okay, Amber, next one. The doer. I told you I have an exile called sadness. You know when I don't feel sad? When I'm climbing mountains. When I'm dirt biking. When I'm running. When I'm getting work done. When I'm working on anything. When I'm renovating. When I'm doing something all the time and I can't even sit in my car for 10 seconds without learning on something. I'll turn on a podcast. I'll turn on an audiobook. Right? Because if I keep doing, I won't have to feel that. Anyone have a doer in your head? A friend of mine said to me the other day, I am so busy, my face is numb. If you need to do that much, there's an exile in there that's you're pretty nervous of, huh? Don't put up your hand, but anyone have a doer inside of you? If we do, we won't have to feel that. If we're busy, anytime someone says, how are you doing? Last little while, I hate these messages sometimes because they're like right between the eyes. I'm literally typing, I'm so busy, and I'm like, then I look at my message about doers, and I'm looking back at my email, and I'm like, oh, crap. Every response I do to how are you doing is I'm busy. Doer much, Clausen? But it's like the voice, the perfectionist voice I could see. The doer voice, it's like it's my voice. Should you go dirt biking today? Of course you should. It's beautiful weather. It'll be great. You'll have a great time. Do I ever ask the question, am I going because I don't want to feel something? No. I'm busy. Can you throw up the next one for me, Amber? Thinker. Oh, sweet Jesus. Never had that one before. Anyone think that their body's job is to walk their brains around their world? Yeah, you got a thinker in there. It's saying as long as we can conceptualize everything, as long as we can keep it in thinking. If you ever say, let me think about how I'm feeling, you're thinking. Thinkers are great, right? Guess what I don't need to do? I don't need to feel anything. When I'm sitting with my wife and we're having a discussion about something she's done that hurts me, well, I don't want to feel that. Let me tell you why you've screwed up. Let me conceptualize internal family systems for you all. Anyone? Don't put up your head. Any thinkers in the room? You can even hear it in my voice. When that manager is talking, my voice sounds different. I sound like this. Hey guys, how's it going? Hey, is there any emotion here? No, we don't do emotions. We're thinkers. Just our brains walking around. Anyone have a thinker manager in there? Don't put up your hands again. It's a tough one. But it hides a lot of exiles. Can you throw the next one up for me, Amber? Controller. Whew. Controllers say, if I can control everything, I will never have to feel the lack of control. If I can control everything around me, the people around me, my house, then I won't feel sad, then I won't feel out of control, then I won't feel unsafe. The manager makes a ton of sense. It just takes over everything in your life. Controls every person. So that you don't feel this. Next one, Amber. Passive. This one is, again, for somebody with mind managers, this one is new to me. I had to read it 3 times. Passive says this, if I don't do anything, I will never, ever, ever make a mistake. The exile, the feeling of what happens when I screw up, what happens if I make a mistake, all that stuff, you know what? If you're doing nothing, if you're sitting on the couch, you don't have to worry about it. You'll never feel it. Until someone says, hey, come out and do this thing with me. No. Whoa, 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 whoa. You want me to do what? Can you put the next one up for me? Pessimist. If you have a voice in your head that can always see the worst in everything, it sees the worst in yourself, the worst in people, the worst in situations, chances are there's a hope exile that you're dealing with. If I keep my expectations so damn low, they will never be broken. The feeling of having expectations, having hope, and then having it not come through is so painful that exile sits over here, and now it's basically like, oh yeah, they won't show up. Oh yeah, that won't happen. Oh yeah, that probably will be bad. Oh yeah, I'm sick again. They call this one the Eeyore of managers. It makes sense though, doesn't it? If your heart is broken because someone didn't come through at this certain time, pessimism will help you. Can you throw up the next one for me? Pleaser, server. Trevor's whole message is right there. If I give up my I and I become whatever you need me to be, what emotions are we trying, what exiles are we trying to deal with there? Do you think you deserve love? That just who you are is lovable? No. Of course not. If I'm perfect, if my hair is just so, if I behave perfectly, then maybe. The feeling of rejection is so painful that you will literally give up 99% of yourself. The managers make a ton of sense, don't they? And yet, what they do to us. Amber, can you throw up one more? That's the last one, right, Amber? Yeah. The critic and judge. Ooh. Critic is inside. That's the shame voice. That's the you piece of shit, you stupid idiot, you failure, you whatever. And it turns on the world around us in the same way. People often say to me, they'll say something just before they'll say, don't judge. And I was always like, what an odd thing to say. Until I read about that manager. I was like, oh, the voices inside of you are harsh, aren't they? But you know what? That voice is trying to keep you at the top of your game. Because if you're at the top of your game, if it never lets up, if it's like, no, come on, more, you got to do better, enough, just quit sitting around, quit screwing up. It's protecting that exile that's saying, you won't love me just for who I am, will you? Can you feel your managers? Is there one in that list that you're like, oh, yeah. Frankly, I have not enjoyed this week. Every time one of those managers speaks up, I'm like, oh, for the love of Pete. I thought I'd done a lot of work on this stuff. The perfectionist voice when I spilled the thing, right? I didn't be, really? Here's the thing that IFS tells us. If we villainize our managers, we will just make it into another exile. And when those exiles, you're at a dinner party and someone pokes at that. When you're watching a movie and someone tweaks at that. When someone shows up with that energy of your exile, you will not react well. There is no choice there. You will snap. You will react badly. You will go into some sort of spiral without choice. There is no regulation. Sensei James says, be regulated. Again, thanks, buddy. But what if we could start to hear those voices of the managers, and instead of making them into exiles, instead of giving them that power and saying, no, something hits, I'm trying to protect you. Have you ever done that where you're like, hey, stop being so critical of me? And its answer is, well, if I let you off the hook, you're just going to get worse. Instead, say this. thank you. You have worked so hard to protect me. Thank you. Can you feel the difference in energy? There's a whole process where we're going to go all the way down into our exiles. And we're going to learn how to bring them out of that dark place where they're so reactive. But this Christmas, here's my homework for you if you're open to it. Start to name your managers. I have one called Islandy. He sounds a lot like me. In fact, his voice is exactly my voice. The perfectionist voice sounds a bit more like my mom. My mom rarely screwed anything up. I thought that was a skill. Now I'm wondering, how much were her managers running her life? This Christmas, without villainizing, name them. Just say, oh, there's that voice. Hey, buddy. Thank them. Thank you. But today I don't need to lose it on Uncle who just said that stupid crap. Today showing up at the party 2 hours late because I had the date wrong in my head. It's just going to be something funny. Today, when that person shows up and has that emotion that I have exiled, and my manager's like, whoa, you need to fix that. Just see it. And say, I know what you're trying to do. Thank you. That will be enough that you'll have a moment between when the thing hits and your reaction. That's when we have regulation. If this is an area you struggle in, email me, vince@friendchurch.ca. There's a way of working through this to get this stuff less reactive so that we can do the spiritual work of being healthy human beings who can see other people without them freaking us out all the time and triggering us and dealing with them, creating a we so that we can actually have this robust, healthy spiritual well inside of us, and then we can take water just like we just did with all these hampers. Without this system in place, without this regulation in the eye, that whole thing is at risk. May you see the managers inside of you that are desperately trying to protect you. And may you thank them. Have a great week, everybody.